G'day everybody, welcome here to the BTR Excavation Division 1 review for the entire year. So we're at June, we're at the break, and my name is Lockie Gould. I'm joined by the Wizard himself, Jack Banwell. How are you, Jack?
Yeah, excellent. It's been a sensational start to the year in the BTR Excavations Division 1. Can't wait to wrap it all up.
It is. We're going to have a look at that ladder first. So Port District's 12 points, Sacred Heart's also on 12 points, so 6-1. Sacred Heart got their first loss against Ross Trevor last time out. St. Peter's and Salisbury North are 5-2, as are Ross Trevor. That rounds up the top 5, so the finals paying positions. Golden Grove, you still think this is on? Just circling back to the show, the review itself in round 8, you still think this is on? I'm starting to lean that we might already have a top 5 that's finalised.
Yeah, I think if anyone's going to jump in, I think it is only Golden Grove that can, sitting on 3 wins, and then it's probably just a little bit too far back for Glenunga and Prince Alfred sitting in 7th and 8th to jump in. But yeah, Golden Grove's still a red hot chance, I think.
And the other 2 teams in that are Payneham Norwood Union and Broadview. Payneham Norwood Union got their first win over Broadview, so they're now 1-6, and Broadview yet to win in season 2025, 0-7. I'm going to be really mean, and I'm going to ask for your relegation tip right off the top of this review.
Unprompted. Broadview, unfortunately, I think are going to go down, probably just a bridge too far. Big call, Prince Alfred.
Prince Alfred down. Well, I tipped them to be grand finalists, so that tip is still alive and strong. Not really, no. That tip is dead in the water, unfortunately, I think. Look, I'll level with you. I'm not going to give a relegation tip because I don't want to be hunted at 2 football clubs this year. So we'll move on. The review shows that we're going to go through the goals, the leading goal kickers across the entire division. Lockie Pascoe, 26 goals coming off 9 in round 6, and then in round 7 he kicked another 4 as well in the losing team. So the Golden Grove talisman doing his absolute finest work at the minute. Anthony Hallibat has 17 goals, Nick Michaels 14 goals, Tommy Wagner with 14 goals, and Harrison Viney 14 goals. I looked at that list and I went, 2 players playing at Payneham Norwood Union that have had 1 win, yet they've got 28 goals between them. I thought that was quite an interesting little watch along. Yeah,
I think they certainly jumped up the leaderboard over the weekend as well, with Viney kicking 5 and Wagner, I think, was kicking 3. So they've jumped up. And yeah, super interesting that, they've only got 1 win, but they've got 28 goals between them, which they needed because they lost a fair few goal kickers over the summer.
Yeah, we've got some outstanding players as well. So the players we're going to talk about, we spent probably all week coming up with this list because I had 5 and then you had 5. And we kind of had to combine players together. So number 1 on the list, Jake Pittman out at Golden Grove. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a sentence, then we get enough highlights, but a sentence to describe him.
1 word, pig.
Pig, there you go. So, I'm not sure how flattered he'll be with that, but anyway, we'll move on. Will Schmidt, Prince Alfred.
Spewing that I didn't get to see him on the weekend, my first game at PAC, but I've seen him once before. Classy, intercepting defender, love his run and carry.
Ben Moraney out at Sacred Heart.
Haven't seen him yet in the flesh. Has been super important to Sacred Heart's forward line coming to the club this year, adding, I think it is about 11 goals, and their offense has struggled a little bit in times. It's probably why they haven't won a final in the last couple of years. Hopefully, he can be part of the difference.
Just on Sacred Heart, do they win a final this year?
They do, yep. I think they'll make the grand final.
Ooh, there we go. Final tips coming up though.
Going early with the grand final predictions, but yes, there's an early caveat to the grand final prediction.
And Hallibat out at Salisbury North. Talk us through him.
Super smooth, can play small and tall, and converts his opportunities.
Joey Haynes out at Port District.
Architect.
Yeah, that's a great word to describe Joey Haynes. And we're actually going to go with our Coach of the Year in Division 1 so far, Mike O'Leary out at St. Peter's.
He's done a sensational job, Michael O'Leary. They've been a Division 1 powerhouse sort of going back a fair few years, and they've sort of dropped off a little bit the last few years. He's trying to rebuild the squad, and he's done a really good job of it over the summer, bringing in some really key personnel, and I think that's definitely helped them, and now we're seeing them sit in 3rd. And definitely a deserving winner of the Coach of the Year so far.
Highlights. So we're going to change it slightly. Which team has given you, I guess, kind of the greatest surprise? Because I've got 2, and there's no guesses on who they're going to be.
Salisbury North and Sacred Heart. It's good to see Sacred Heart continue their strong regular season form. I think over the last couple of years, going out in straight sets the last couple of years, that can be definitely deflating, and it would have been no surprise to see them drop off a little bit this year, but they're going strong. And then Salisbury North, they're playing some outstanding attacking footy, and they're currently sitting 4th with the number 1 offense in the comp, so they've both been excellent.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the two promoted guys. I know it's the easy option, but Salisbury North and Ross Trevor for coming up from Division 2. I mean, I know we saw it last year with Payneham Norwood Union and Golden Grove, both sitting and ending up inside the top 5 come September. But for mine, I think Salisbury North and Ross Trevor, they've really taken this competition by a little bit of a storm. And I don't know whether or not no one would have taken them lightly, coming off Division 2. And obviously we said that kind of promotion bounce. But they have been really, really excellent and taken it to some of the really established teams in this competition as well. We're going to go for some lowlights as well. The team that's been most disappointing, and you can only give one.
Glenunga.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think the Rams have been really not their greatest outfit for the first couple of months of the season, but I'm sure they'll bounce back. G'day everybody and welcome here to Webb Oval at Glenunga. Of course, massive news coming out of the Footy Club effective as of Tuesday afternoon. Alex Guy has been let go as the head coach of the Glenunga Football Club. He said that it came out of the blue and that he was not in a rush to get back into coaching anytime soon after this. He thought that the club was in a good position, that they'd been in games as late as deep into the third quarter, and that they'd had some bad results, but with the bottom 3 in the next 3 weeks, he was really confident in where the club was heading. Glenunga said that they'd like to acknowledge and sincerely thank Alex for his significant contribution to the club. It was determined that in the current stage of the season and the upcoming bye, it was an appropriate time to part ways. A recruitment process is now underway to identify a new replacement for Alex Guy. This comes off the back of a 44-point win against Golden Grove the week before the bye, and now the club sits 2 and 5 in 7th position. With games against Broadview, Payneham and Prince Alfred all the way, they were all winnable, but I guess we'll never know how Alex Guy would have gone in those games. From all of us here at Glenunga, that's good night.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. And similar to Sacred Heart, I suppose, you could probably say that it's not a great surprise that they might have fallen away a little bit after 2 grand final defeats. It's obviously very deflating. And with a new coach, maybe just struggling to adapt slightly. They also do have some key injuries, which is definitely a major reason why they haven't been able to register some more wins that they would like. But yeah, we definitely would expect more than 2 wins coming to round 7.
I am going to go with anything else that you want to share. So any trends, anything you can think of, because I've got one. I don't know if you've got one.
Give me a minute. You share yours and I'll have a quick think.
I've already kind of touched on it, but that top 5 that we've got at the minute will not change between now and the end of the season. That is your finals team. The order may change, but the teams in it, absolutely no chance.
Yeah, I touched on it earlier. I think Golden Grove are still a chance of getting into the 5. They do boast the 2nd best offense in the comp. They just need to shore up their defense. Currently 3rd worst defense, and their sort of middle clearance sort of game definitely needs a bit of work over the break as well, which I'm sure Luke Barnby will be all over like a rash.
So headline we will see. Now this is a new thing. So imagine you're reading the paper solely based on the Adelaide Footy League, the BTO Excavations Division 1, and the headline we will see come the year's end. I've got one. Lockie Pascoe's 10 sees Kookaburras pass Prince Alfred on the final match day as Grove's golden boy cracks 75 goals for the season.
I'll add to that. Lockie Pascoe kicks 10 in round 18 to secure a final spot for the Kookaburras, coming from the clouds to get into the 5.
There we go. You're very, very strong on Golden Grove getting into that 5. Who falls out for them then?
Potentially Ross Trevor. I did think early in pre-season that St. Peter's can definitely challenge for the 5, but who knows, maybe they just have a couple of games where they fall short like they did on in round 7. They lost by a point. If maybe a couple of more of those go against them, they could easily find themselves out as well. So it's going to be super tight in Division 1, but yeah, I do expect Golden Grove to respond and yeah, potentially make a charge.
Yeah, I'm interested you said Ross Trevor. Ross Trevor's midfield, I mean, you have a look at the team that's currently 2nd. We're on top of the ladder with 6-0 coming into the weekend. Their midfield is really the only midfield that stacks up against Sacred Heart, and their midfield is kind of the benchmark at the minute. Yeah,
no, it's a good point you make. Ross Trevor are really balanced. I saw them in round 1, and the way that they were able to win the contest and give really good pressure against Payneham, but then get them on the slingshot and use good skills going inside 50. And as you said, that midfield led by Butterworth, I think he's been in the best players every week, sort of similar to like Bradley Noble and his influence for Sacred Heart. So yeah, it's probably a great point you make there. The 2 best midfielders, probably got the 2 best ruckmen as well in the comp. Bobby Russo down at Salisbury North, he's probably challenging as well. Scott Lysett, there's actually some bloody good rucks in this competition now that you say that. But yeah, Butterworth, Bradley Noble, they're both huge for their teams.
The grand final matchup, it's the last thing to do. So the grand final matchup and the best on ground. Do you want to go first or shall I?
Sacred Heart versus Port Districts. Give me 2 seconds to think of a best player.
Sacred Heart versus Port Districts for mine as well. Sacred Heart beat Port Districts just but Porty's the best player on the ground is Cooper Gaffney. I've taken a page out of TJ's book.
Yep, no, that's right. TJ's love child. Shout out to TJ. Just on Port Districts and the whole grand final thing, found a really good little bit of info here. Only one team in the last 12 seasons has gone back to back. That was Goodwood some 9 or 10 years ago, I think it was. And only 4 teams in the last 12 seasons have won the premiership and then returned to the grand final the previous year. So Port Districts, if my maths is correct, that's about a 30% chance of making it back. I think they can do it. They definitely can do it. I think they'll be there. And for a best on ground, it probably depends on who wins. I'll go Ben Moroney.
There you go. That is the Division 1 review for June. We'll see you back after the long weekend with plenty more footy.
Do you belong in a role that drives you? In a community that makes you proud? In a team that brings out your best? You belong in blue. Apply for a career with South Australia Police.
Alright, it's women's footy time and I know it's everyone's favourite. Can you believe it is halfway through the season? I can actually, I'm pretty tired and I'm sure the players are too. But it has gone so fast. So let's break down what has been happening in the BTR Excavations Division 1 women's competition. Now, we'll start with the ladder. Let's have a look at what's going on there. No surprises really in top spot is Payneham, and they are really pushing for that back-to-back flag. We saw them get that success finally last season, and I really think they do still have that hunger to get another flag. They're doing everything right. They're 7-0, haven't dropped a game, obviously. They have been challenged a few times at various points through their games, but they've managed to hold everyone off. They've got a solid percentage, and for them, it's really about just keeping healthy, no injuries, staying strong, and just keep on winning and continuing that push to finals. So Payneham, they're absolutely in the box seat. I don't want to jinx them here, but they've just got to keep winning to get themselves into that grand final position once again. In second spot, we've got Happy Valley. They're sitting with 5 wins and 2 losses. Now, we know it's their first season back in Division 1, so pretty impressive to only be on the 2 losses there. They're doing it well. I think they would have been confident coming into Division 1 that they could absolutely compete, but they've definitely exceeded expectations for me and done really well at this level. They've done well in tight games. They have won 4 games by 4 points or less. So absolutely a good skill to have, playing well in those close games. That should bode well for finals footy and just, having that skill to hold on in those close games. The only worry for me with Happy Valley is Payneham. When they played each other, Happy Valley lost by 70 points. So they really need to close the gap there with the top side. But they are absolutely going on nicely, and the goal for them has to be that top 2 finish. Now, heading down to the next part of the ladder is where things get interesting. We have 3 teams sitting on 4 wins and 3 losses, making up positions 3rd to 5th on the ladder. So in 3rd, we've got Henley with the 66%. 4th, Morphettville Park, 57%, and 5th, Hectorville with 46%. It's really tight in there. And we'll start with 3rd position. So Henley, they've got a healthy percentage. They had a big win in round 7. Now, they did well in Division 1 last year, but struggled in finals. Now, I know we can't think about that yet, but they really need to keep up the pressure. And we know with their results, they've gotten close to Payneham and Happy Valley, who are above them on the ladder. They've proven that they can match it with those top 2 teams, but they do need to keep pushing along and challenging and just, cement themselves as a real finals contender. Then in fourth, we've of course got Morphettville Park, the veteran team of Division 1 women's. They are just always there and they look a lot more settled in 2025. We know they missed the finals in 2024, so I think they have a little bit of a point to prove, if anything, just to themselves, because we know that they pride themselves on their success. And they don't like to miss finals. Now, they are always around the mark. They've got an experience list. They've added a few recruits in there this year. They are absolutely always a team to watch, so we know that they'll be pushing to stay in finals contention. In fifth, we've got Hectorville. Now, it's of course their first season up in Division 1, so you feel that they're really trying to prove themselves at this level. Now, they started their round 1 with a rough loss to Goodwood, but they absolutely got themselves back on track. In their last 2 weeks, they've beaten Happy Valley and Morphettville Park, so they are absolutely building something special there at Hectorville. And it's just going to be interesting to see if they can keep it up and keep up pace, keep right up there with those stronger teams. I mean, it really feels like they can. Now, so that's, going through that sort of 3rd to 5th spot. So we're going to have to absolutely keep an eye on what goes in there. Wins and losses, so important for the teams in those positions. Now, moving into 6th, we have Goodwood, 3 wins and 4 losses. And Goodwood's probably a team that's underperformed for me. We saw what they did in 2024, where they had a great first half of the season and then fell away due to injuries and then lost their first final. I've got really high hopes for this squad. I've said it time and time again. I think they've absolutely got the talent there, but unfortunately, they just haven't got the wins on the board. They started their season with a massive win over Hectorville and then ended up dropping 3 games in a row. So they've really struggled for consistency. So the first few games after the bye are really important and absolutely make or break for the Goodwood Saints. Now, in 7th spot, we've got Broadview with just the 1 win and 6 losses, and it really just hasn't been their year. They were a kick away from a premiership last year, but unfortunately just haven't been able to reach those heights yet in 2025. I think they've just been a little bit unsettled in their team and just a bit inconsistent. And, in a positive for them, they have had a lot of girls that have got promotion up to the Sandful rank. So it's great to see the talent that they've produced rewarded, but I think it's really tested their depth this season. Now, we know Broadview are a proud women's club, so I know they won't be happy to be sitting in 7th at the moment, but this season may be just a little bit of a reset and rebuild. We know that they've got strong juniors, so they've got a good foundation of players coming through that will be ready to come into the senior ranks in the coming years. Then in 8th, we've got Golden Grove, and they're still searching for their first win for the season, but as we saw in round 7, they got within 4 goals of the top side in Payneham and, finished off the first half of the season with their highest score for the year. They're absolutely still building and improving in their second season in Division 1. I think for them, they've just got to set some goals for the second half of the season and hopefully set themselves up for their first win. Now, let's have a look at everyone's other favourite ladder, and that is, of course, our leading goal kickers. So we have no surprises, Tegan Dunbar in first position from the Henley Sharks with 28 goals for the season. We've also got Chloe Samuel in second with 13 goals. She is, of course, from Payneham. In third, it's Morphettville Park's Caitlin Swanson with 12 goals. And in fourth, we've got Emma White from Goodwood and Letitia Ackland with 11 as well from Payneham. So let's have a little look at the form of these key forwards. Well, Tegan Dunbar, what more can I say? She's kicked multiple goals in every game except round 5 where she was held goalless. She's kicked 2 bags of 4, 1 of 5, and obviously her huge 9-goal haul versus Broadview in round 7. And she is only 18 years old. It's honestly just scary for me. Can you believe it? She is so talented. I think maybe she'll have a little bit of a goal of trying to hit maybe 50 for the season. She's got the rest of the rounds to go. We'll see how she goes, but Tegan Dunbar, she's absolutely killing it. Now, Chloe Samuel in second position on the goal kicking from Payneham. She is so consistent, 13 goals in 5 games. So, you know, she's missed a couple of games, but she has kicked a goal in all 5 of her appearances so far this year. She is so reliable for Payneham. She works so hard. She's been playing out there for multiple seasons. You know, she's a much loved member of that team and really gets them up and about with her goal kicking. Now, into third position, as we said, Caitlin Swanson from Morphettville Park. She's a veteran of this club, but she absolutely has not lost it. She can still fire in front of goal and lift up her team. She is a great player to have in your forward line. You know, she can always pop up and kick a goal when needed. So well done, Caitlin Swanson, having a great season in front of goal. And then we, of course, have to talk about Emma White from Goodwood Saints. Now, she's sitting in 4th, as we said, on 11 goals. And, you know, she's a captain of the Saints. She leads from the front. You know, she's having another great season. She's goaled in every game that she's played this season. As I said, she's a great leader, a great inspiration to her teammates down at the Saints. And then we have Letitia Ackland, also on 11 goals from Payneham. Now, she's just played 4 games this season and has kicked 11 goals in that, with results of 1 goal, 3 goals, 4 goals and 3 goals. So she's absolutely dangerous there for Payneham and always manages to contribute. Now, let's have a look at a few players who have been playing well throughout the season. And for Payneham, I have to speak about Alice Tentai. She has kicked 8 goals in 5 games and been in the best in all of her appearances. She's going so well, she was actually promoted recently for her first league game for the Woodville West Torrens Eagles, round 10 at Sandful W. So, you know, Sandful coaches are always having a look at what's going on at local level. So you can see why it's important to keep performing when you go back to your local club, because you never know what could happen. Now, Alice is from North Gambia in the southeast. So great to see her come up here for her first season in the Adelaide Footy League with Payneham, having a real breakout season, as we said, now debuting in the Sandful W. Now, we'll have a little bit of a look now at Simone Shermer. She, of course, plays for Happy Valley, and she is having a solid season, contributing week in and week out as her team continue their rise up in Division 1. And, of course, speaking of Happy Valley, we are also keeping an eye on superstar forward Georgia Hooper. We saw her kick 5 goals in a match-winning performance in the 2024 Div 2 Grand Final last year, and she has been impacting once again in Division 1. Well, it's mid-season, so where do we go from here? I think maybe the top 4 is fairly settled, but maybe Hectorville a chance to come into that top 4 and break their way in there. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they did, based on recent form. At the moment, grand final for me, I'm going to call it as Payneham versus Henley. Look, that's just my feeling. I'm going to go with that. I could be wrong, but that's just how it's all playing out for me. It is going to be a massive second half of the season. I can't wait to see what happens. Maybe my predictions will be right. Maybe I'll be completely off the mark. Who knows? We'll see in the coming weeks, and we'll see who ends up being there come grand final day. The countdown is on. Thanks for tuning in to the mid-season Division 1 Women's Review.
Welcome everyone, Tim Pillion here with the Men's Division 2 Breakthrough Mental Health June Review. We're here at the lovely Bartley's Tavern, I'm sure you're already aware of that, but I've got 5 things to go through, and hopefully in that time I'll give you an update on where things have happened for the Div 2 men's comp this year. Let's start with the ladder. The ladder is starting to make some shape of exactly the predictions we made earlier in the year. So we've got Athelston sitting on top, undefeated with 7 wins, puts them at 14 points and 67%, going very, very strong at this stage. Teatree Gully at 6-1 with the 1 loss to Athelston, we'll talk about that. Goody Saints sitting in 3rd position with 5 wins, 2 losses, 10 points with a healthy percentage of 58%. And then we hit that little logjam in the middle of the table. Flinders Park, 4 and 3, 8 points. Henley, 4 and 3, 8 points. Brighton, 4 and 3, 8 points. Separated only by percentage, with Brighton at 46% after that shocking start to the season. On how they've recovered is a great story in itself. Then we hit the lower quartile with regards to Old Iggy's, 2 and 5, 4 points. Old Adelaide Uni, 2 and 5, 4 points. And then down the bottom of the table, Modbury with the 1 win, and Lockley's yet to get off the mark. Interesting stats for this week though is down the bottom of the table, Modbury and Lockley's play each other. Really critical game there. Modbury get over the win, they'll jump up with Uni and Old Iggy's and leave Lockley's as struggling at the bottom. But if Lockley's can upset them, it opens up the competition for that relegation zone later in the season. Okay, goal kickers, leading goal kickers, we can show that. Caleb Barton at Athelston played all 7 games, he's kicked 20 goals. He kicked a goal in every game he's played this season with a bag of 5. And the other next 4 are all on 16 goals. You got Max Teague at Flinders Park, Tyler Harris at Goody Saints, Brodie Latham, that magnificent small forward at Tea Tree Gully, and Mark Elliott at Brighton, who's only played the 6 games, but all on 16. Okay, moving on to some key players we're going to talk about. There's going to be 5 players we'll have some vision of, and then I'm going to give an honourable mention to 5 other players from the clubs. So starting off, just taking it from the Play HQ app, where we get all our stats from, we've got Darcy Pisani from Modbury. 7 games, 7 times in the best players, 5 times in the top 3, and 2 as the best player. He's having a wonderful season and leading the way for Modbury. Captain of the club, and did play a few games, as you know, at Centrals and Norwood, so a very, very good player. After that, we go straight down to Goody Saints. We've got Jade Cleland. Now, Jade Cleland at the moment, leading the rucks for Goody Saints, has played the 6 games and been best on for them in 3 of those games. So he is absolutely dominating and been a reason why Goody Saints are playing so well at this moment. He also, as you know, has a background of 60-odd games when he's playing out at West Adelaide. I've then gone to Old Iggy's, who Henley played yesterday, so I got to see this guy firsthand. Their player is Darcy McDonald, their vice-captain. 7 games, he's been in the best players 4 times. He had some games out at Centrals, but goodness me, in the middle, big body. Watched him yesterday. His highlights from the last quarter yesterday will be great to watch. So he's absolutely doing it well for Old Iggy's at the moment. We've got Blake Penny at Tea Tree Gully, their captain, leading the ruck, 7 games, 4 times in the best players. Blake now played over 200 games for Tea Tree Gully. What a magnificent servant he has been for the club, dominating the rucks, and one of the reasons TTG are going to be in contention for the flag this year. Go back to Henley, we've got a player called Kane Sherlock. Kane Sherlock across half back, 7 games, 4 best players in the best players. He's played many seasons at West Adelaide, now settled into Henley, but helping us shore up that back line and helping Henley get through what they've done. The other one for Athelston, the top side, there's numerous players I could have mentioned here. Could have gone through Jack Mazuris, Mitch Grigg, Aaron Stewart, Caleb Barton. All of those guys deserve a mention, but they've spread their best players across many, and no one is dominating. That's a sign of a good side, sitting on top of the ladder. But I've gone with Zayton Santillo. He's played the 7 games. He's been in the best players nearly 3 to 4 times. He played his 64, 65 games at North Adelaide. He seems to be a great addition for Athelston this year, and he seems to be one to look at. Honourable mentions very quickly. Ty Murphy at Brighton. In 7 games, he's been in the best players 5 times. He had some games over at Glenelg. Josh Gericke at Flinders Park. Pretty sure Josh is playing his 150th game this week for Flinders Park. He's a fantastic pickup, captain of the club. Played a few games out at the Eagles, but he's been in the best players 5 times, Josh Gericke. And honourable mentions over to Adelaide Uni. Harrison Cook is leading in the best players on the app, but I want to mention when we played him, there's a guy on the wing called Will McGowan that played a magnificent game. He was fantastic. And finally to Lockley's, you've got the stalwarts of Ben Harron and Bowen Hosking, who you can't go past, that are just week in, week out with the consistency on how well they're playing with Lockley's. So key players for the key clubs. There are others, sorry if I've missed you. Haven't seen all the clubs playing at this stage, but they're the ones that stand out every week when you look at clubs that are playing well and how they're contributing. My highlights and observations so far. Okay. There's been 35 games played. We're round 7, 5 games around. 35 games played. 6 games have been decided by less than a goal, and another 6 games been decided by less than 3 goals. But then there's been over 10 games decided by over 60 points. So I'm just trying to show that there are close games and there are games where they are blown out. That happens in every league, but I'm just more focusing on the close games and the unpredictability of what I think this season will be. I think players are now finding their way. I think there's sides on the charge, and I think there's ways to go forward. Of the 35 games, 33 scores where teams have kicked more points than goals. Now 35 games means there's 70 teams, but 33 teams have kicked more points than goals. So accuracy, kicking by foot is critical in this competition. It will cost you games. Old Iggies are the biggest culprit. 6 of their 7 games they've kicked more points than goals. Henley are second with 5 out of their 7 games they've kicked more points than goals. Cost them a game in one of them. 35 games with my home and away. I love this home and away, thinking there's an advantage when you play home games. Well, out of 35 games, 18 winning games have been home teams and 17 winning games have been from the away teams. That's blown my theory out of the park, but I still like it. I still like going forward with it. And only last round, the one happened yesterday on round 7, every away team in Division 2 were the winners. Finishing off with my predictions for where we're going, I think there is a bit of a trend forming here. So I can see a top 3 that might be forming. I can see Athelstone, Tea Tree Gully and Flinders Park forming up to be the top 3. Flinders Park are really now starting to get on a bit of a roll. They've got their tools, their smalls, their pace, their big bodies. I think they're well coached and I think they're going to be a real dominant player into the finals. Athelstone and Tea Tree Gully are very strong clubs and know what they're doing. I think there's a next 3 in the middle right now, and they're the 3 that are on the same number of points. You've got Goody Saints who have done everything right at this stage, but playing Tea Tree Gully and Flinders Park the next 2 games. So that's going to sort them out. Then you've got Henley and then you've got Brighton on the charge as well. I think after a poor start, they've really come good and I think they're going to be ones to watch. Guys, I'll finish with my Div 1 grand finalists. Haven't watched a lot of Div 1. I think it's pretty obvious that you've got Sacred Heart, Port Districts, for me, looking to be the firming favourites in the grand final. Don't discount Spock. And the reason I go through those 3 clubs is because Shock, Port District and Spock are 1, 2, 3 in Div 1 and they're also 1, 2, 3 in Div 1 reserves. So when you have that depth in your club, I think that adds to the stability of being able to go deep into the finals. I look forward to coming back for the mid-season review after the long break when we've seen all 9 teams. Be able to see once everyone's played each other once, you'll know where we stand. But that's Tim Pillian giving a wrap up for Div 2 at this stage. Hope you've enjoyed it and see you soon.
Welcome everyone to my 9 News Division 3 June review. My name is Alex Coots and I'll be unveiling everything that has happened so far up until June. Now we'll dissect the ladder. Foss Camden, they're first with the highest percentage, 60.17. They've only lost 1 game this year and I reckon they'll make it 7-1 after round 8. Westminster are second on the ladder, having the 3rd highest percentage. Westminster are a very, very, very strong team, with Curtis Phillips being their best player so far. He's led them to a 6-1 record, being second on the ladder. Next up, Unley Jets. They have 10 points, being 5-2. They have the 2nd highest percentage in the league with 58.46. Edward Sound, they were on top earlier in the year, but they've slipped down to 4th place. Next up, Pembroke Old Scholars. They are also on a 4-3 record with 54.22%, having 6th on the ladder. North Haven, they don't have the best percentage, but are still holding in that 6th spot on the ladder. Next up, Kilburn. They're a very dangerous team They come in a lot of close games. That's why they have the 4th highest percentage, only being 7th on the ladder. So they're going to be eager to get into that top 5 after the year. Seton Ramblers, they're 8th on the ladder and have the 8th highest percentage. They're going to due for a win, and this week I reckon they can beat North Haven. Next up, second to bottom, Scotch Old Collegians. They're only 1-6 and they have 40.5%, so not very strong, but we know what they can do. Last but definitely not least, Hope Valley. Unfortunately, they have a not good percentage, only having 27.74 and being 0-7. Unfortunately, they suffered a big 92-point loss to Pembroke last week, and this week they have only Jets, so that's going to be very dangerous for them. Leading goal kickers. Number 1, we have Josh Holiday with 26 goals for Edwardstown. He kicked a bag of 7 against Seton in round 5, and they were 8th on the ladder when Edwardstown was 2nd. Next up, Nicholas Leck for Westminster. Westminster have 2 people in the top 5 leading goal kickers, Nicholas Leck with 22 and Elliot Viles with 16. That's a combined 38 goals between the pair. Number 3, we have Jake Sutcliffe for Unley. He snagged 4 goals last week versus Kilburn in their 41-point win, and he also had 2 best player votes. Michael Howson, he has 17 goals for the year, despite only playing 6 games. He plays for Kilburn, and their percentage is hot. Moving on to the best players, we have a leading Mitch Duval. He's been nasty for Unley, leading him to 3rd on the ladder with the 2nd highest percentage. Curtis Phillips, he's had 6 player points in the last 3 games. Samuel Hargreaves for Scotch Old Collegians. Despite having a 1-6 record, he has led their team to a victory and will hope to lead them to many more this year. William Burrows for the Seton Ramblers. He's also equal 2nd along with Curtis Phillips, Samuel Hargreaves and the player next. So William Burrows for Seton will look to get them a few more wins before the year and getting them a win versus North Haven in 2 weeks' time. Jake Pavio-Amato for Foss Camden has been absolutely lethal, leading to the 1st place spot with 60.17%. My player to watch for the season is definitely Josh Holiday, being the leading goal kicker and kicking 7 goals and bags in multiple games this year. My Div 1 grand finalists will be Sacred Heart and St. Peter's Old Collegians, with Sacred Heart winning by 2 goals. Thank you everyone for listening in to my June review for the 9 News Division 3.
Well, g'day footy fans, I'm Phil Hurd and I'm here to give you all the lowdown and the up-down on the Police Credit Union Division 4. So Hectorville, after a 1-3 start, have won their last 3, started in 5th, they're now in 5th with a little buffer. Meanwhile, Mitcham are winless in their last 3. They drew with Colonel Light, have lost their last 2, and they've dropped from 6th to 8th. Looking over the course of the season, probably Hectorville's best player has been Elite Cabruso, their vice-captain, kicked 2 goals yesterday. He's been in the best 5 of the 7 games. Luke Broadbent has 17 goals, leading the Hounds. He's 6th in the division. For Mitcham, some of their best players this season include Stuart Lawson, Thomas Cromarty, Moses Milson, Maxwell Smythe, who is 2nd in the league for goals with 25. He had 1 yesterday. But a big win that established Hectorville in the 5 and Mitcham, game and a half out of relegation at the moment. Speaking of relegation, 2 teams that were relegated from Div 3 last year were CBCOC, the Dolphins, and Smosh West Lakes. They met at Park 15, which is CBC's home ground, and having on this very show said live to camera that Smosh West Lakes would not win another game all season, I was waiting for the upset to happen this week. Well, any chance of that upset was killed off early as the Dolphins kicked 4-0 in the first quarter, maintained that lead throughout. 24 at the first break, 30 the main break, 43 the last break. They drew the final quarter. It was CBCOC winning their third game of the season, 13-7, 85. Smosh Westlakes winless after 7, 6-6-42. For the Dolphins, Max Daniel was the best. Liam Grieber kicked 4 goals, Jonty retired 3. And on the season, by the way, Grieber has 16 goals. That places him 7th highest in the league. Well, for Smosh Westlakes, they are currently on a 28-game losing streak. Their last win, just want the Lions to remember it, 5th of August 2023, round 15, back in Div 3. They beat Westminster by 21 points, their 4th win that season. One bright light, the form of Tate Lovering. He's played 6 games for the Lions. He's been in the best all 6. This game, Matthew Gates was their best. Lyndon Parham was the only multiple goal scorer. In terms of on the season, Ryan Foster is Smosh, season leading goal scorer with 6. That puts him 36th in the division. So good win for CBC. They're 3-4, in form, right on the edge of the 5, waiting for someone to have a bad month and they will slip right in. Meanwhile, one of the more surprising results, got to wear a beanie to demonstrate it, the mighty Plympton Bulldogs took on Colonel Light Gardens. Now this was, Plympton were 4th, Colonel Light were 3rd, and Plympton kicked 22 goals, 13, 145. Colonel Light Gardens 3-7, that's 25. Do the maths, that is 35 scoring shots to 10, a 120-point victory to the Bulldogs. It was 3-0 in the first, 8-2 in the second, 5-1 in the third, 6-0 in the final. Colonel Light Gardens never really had a moment where they were even, let alone dominant. The margins at the break, 17, 57, 82, and as mentioned, 120. Second week in a row, the Luke Paparella show for the Bulldogs. He kicked 7. That's 16 in 2 weeks, 36 for the season. Harry Phelan and Brett Connor kicked 4. So 3 Plympton players outscored Colonel Light Gardens, at least with the goals. Jake Gerke was rated Plympton's best. The Bulldogs, by the way, have 3 of the top 10 goal kickers in the Police Credit Union Division 4. Paparella is first on 36. Fela is third on 22, equal third, and Lockie Stoddard equals 7th on 16. Well, for Colonel Light Gardens, they started 4-0. They drew with Mitcham. They've lost to Morphettville Park and then Plympton. The loss, not surprising. The margin certainly is. It's almost as if their memo during the week said they were going to play the Bulldogs at South Terrace, and they all went up to Adelaide Lutheran. Plympton, 20-goal winners. Back to a more neutral report, a big game in the relegation battle. Jeps Cross, 2 wins. Kenilworth, 1 win. Closest game of the round. Jeps Cross getting up 12-9-81. Kenilworth 11-5-71. Just a 10-point victory to the Rams at home. Again, fast start seems to be the trend in all these games so far. Jeps Cross led by 19 points at quarter time. Kenilworth got it back to just a 2-point deficit at the half. Then Jeps Cross by 19 again at 3/4 time. 10 points the margin. It was almost like there was a wind at Jeps Cross, but there certainly wasn't at the game I was at, and that wasn't too far away. Shane Faulkner, the Rams' best. Lockie Matthews, 4 goals. It's a huge win for Jeps Cross. That means they're thinking more about finals than relegation. For the Kookaburras, Nick Chesser and Lockie Hall, 3 goals each. Sam Scott was named the best. Kenilworth are now 1-6. They're 2 wins from safety. They have time. There is 11 games to go, but it is starting to get late, early at St Mary's. And finally, the game of the round in the round of the season. The top of the table clash from the pasty, aka the Broadway Building Co Oval, otherwise known as Kellett Reserve at Morphy Parks. Forget that it was 1v2, it was also Ladies' Day, and I hear that the ladies certainly turned up. And this was a great contest for more reports. Looking at it, no team really had a period of dominance, It was just an even contest for the full 4 quarters. And Morphettville Park won every quarter narrowly. They won the first quarter by 3 points. They led by 9 at half time, 14 at 3-quarter time, final margin 20. Morphy Park's 12-11-83, Walkerville their first loss, 9-9-63. For the Roos, Brodie Trembath, Jasper Clark, 5 goals each, 10 of Morphy Park's 12 goals. Harrison Cock, Tyler Quinn, also in the best for the red and gold. For Walkerville, Mitchell Hahn kicked 5 of the 9 to be their top cat. Brady Zwar and Alex Kudra also mentioned in dispatches. For the season, Hahn has been the Cats' leading goal scorer with 22, places him equal third, whilst for Morphy Park's Jasper Clark leads all the Roos with 18. That puts him 5th in the league. So both teams, after a big day, are tied at 6-1. Walkerville still top due to superior percentage. So let's summarise it. Firstly, all teams won. And when we have a look at the ladder, we'll see that it's probably, well, it's Morphy Park's and Walkerville just separated by about 5%. Plimpton's percentage, 68.72, is a huge gap between them and the rest of the competition if they can get the wins. The leading goal scorers in the Police Credit Union Division 4, Luke Paparella from Plimpton with 36, Maxwell Smythe from Mitcham 25, Mitch Hahn and Harry Phelan, Hahn from Walkerville, Phelan from Plimpton on 22. Medal hopes, it's a little bit hard because every team gives their 5 best players. How does that work out to the umpires' votes? But I'll give you a name from the 5 clubs that are in the 5, and therefore you think getting enough wins to get those critical 3 votes. Luke Capurso from Hectorville, Nick Henkin from Morphy Parks, Alan Kudra from Walkerville, Luke Paparella from Plimpton, Noah Hyde from Colonel Light Gardens. With a shout out to Tate Lovering, who's played all 6 games for Smosh, as mentioned earlier, has been in their best for all 6. Next round, June 14, round 8. Big game at the Dolphins, CBCLC in Plimpton. 2 teams in recent forms. Walkerville and Kenilworth. That's 1 versus 9th. How far the Cats? You'd think the same when the Roos host most West Lakes. How far Morphy Parks? Big game for Colonel Light Gardens. They're hosting Hectorville, 4th hosting 5th. Maybe the Lions will be shocked into a response. I think they might get up at home. And the last game, Jeps Cross versus Mitcham, 7th versus 8th. The winner in the finals hunt. The loser will probably more need to stay at a relegation, and I'll say Mitcham. So looking forward, 5 looks pretty settled, but I reckon CBCOC are best placed to be a late intruder if they continue their recent form and Colonel Light Gardens or Hectorville hit a further rough patch. And the grand final, well, I'm going to say it's Walkerville and Plimpton. Nothing against Morphy Parks, but the Cats and the Bulldogs are due for a move. Walkerville, the only team to have been in this division for the last 5 years. That's the longest of the current group. And Plimpton have been there almost as long, just 4 seasons. And quite often the Bulldogs have been 1 win away from promotion and fallen short at the last hurdle. This year they'll both get it. Be a surprise to no one. I'm hoping the Bulldogs get up. And here are my BTR excavation bold predictions for the 2025 finals. Who's going to make the granny? Hard to look past the defending premiers. I'm going to go Didders to take one of those spots. The second one, I'm going to be a bit of a smoky. Maybe I'm not into colleges these days. I did go to one. Salisbury North, they're 5-2 at the moment. Their 2 losses have been by less than a goal each. They're that close to having had a perfect season, having been promoted. So let's go with Port District and Salisbury and let the huge crowd turn up to that grand final. I'm Phil Hurd, and that's a wrap on the Police Credit Union. You're watching Between the Posts. More after the break.
G'day footy fans, this is the 5AA Division 5 June Review. I'm Jack Banwell, the Division 5 expert, and I can't wait to have a deep dive in Division 5 as the season stands after round 7. We'll quickly run through the round 7 results, and there were some really interesting results that took place over the other weekend. Eastern Park going down by 41 points at home to Salisbury, which was a massive upset considering where Salisbury and Eastern Park have sat in the first portion of the season. 7-goal opening quarter to Salisbury set up the big win there. Trinity going down by 8 points to Gazer, which gives Gazer their 3rd win of the year. Gazer again proving difficult to score against. Ben Bioli finding some form with 3 goals for Gazer. Pulteney versus Paraka, 2-point win there for Paraka. Another close win for Paraka. That's 3 wins for them by under a goal. Inaccuracy potentially costing Pulteney here and missing their leading goal kicker and talisman in the forward line, Joel Aish. Marion, they got the win by 35 points against Woodville South. Woody South kept it tight till half-time. 3 points was the margin there. Then a 7-2 second half saw Marion come away with a really strong victory and stay undefeated. The Stanborough brothers bagging 3 apiece. Greenacres versus Portland. This was a super high scoring contest. It would have been an entertaining watch for all the viewers down there at the jail. The absence of Stephen Clark didn't matter for the Dragons. The other Clark popped up, Ryan bagging a lazy 8. The score there, 25-11, 161, plays 13-12-90 to Portland. 71-point victory there for Greenacres. Looking ahead to round 8, super intriguing matchups coming up in round 8. Be sure to check out the Division 5 wrap from round 7 to get a more in-depth look at those. But just one headline match is the top of the table clash between Greenacres and Marion down there at the jail. So be sure to check that one out. Coming across to the ladder as we approach the bye weekend after round 7 for 5AA Division 5. A 2-horse race is starting to take shape here in Division 5 with Marion and Greenacres, both undefeated, 7 wins, 0 losses. Marion, they hold the #1 defence in the comp with 150 points less conceded than the next best team, which is Gazer, all the way down in 6th. So that just shows how tight this competition is. The 6th place team on the ladder have the 2nd best defence, Gazer, who are proving really difficult to play against. Greenacres, well, they have the #1 offence. For Marion, even contributors across the board with their run and gun style of footy. For Greenacres, their young core is forming this powerhouse group. They haven't put teams away as much as they would like. Their real test comes in round 8 when they host Marion. Paraka, they're sitting 3rd. They have the 4th best defence in Division 5. Their record stands at 5 wins, 2 losses. They've won 3 games by under a goal. So if those results have gone the other way, we could be well talking about them with the other teams sitting 3 wins, 4 losses, potentially even 2 wins, who knows. But they've got the wins on the board, and that's the most important thing for Paraka. They're proving tough to play against. They have a solid A-grade group, and they are gelling from week to week. Standout player for them, Jack Jarrett. He's having an outstanding season, 13 goals and 5 times in the best players. Now, this is the start of the Division 5 logjam, where it gets really interesting on the ladder. We have 5 teams with a 3-win, 4-loss record. Pulteney, Eastern Park, Gazer, Salisbury, and then Portland. We'll start off with Pulteney, and thanks to the lovely Barley Tavern for having us here. We just ran into Joel Aish, the standout performer for Pulteney. He was missing yesterday, and he gave us a real in-depth look at Pulteney. He basically said their best is great, their worst is terrible. If they can make up for those inconsistencies, we could well see them at the top end of the ladder and potentially playing some deep finals footy. A few injuries to key personnel down there for Pulteney as well. They've only had 1 result, win or loss, that's gone bigger than 20 points. So they're competing week to week. Eastern Park, they've got the #3 offence in the comp, but it has fallen away over the last 4 weeks, only averaging 64 points per game. They started in red-hot form, winning 3 on the bounce, and have slid to 4 losses in a row. A couple of injured players to return after the bye should give them some confidence to get some wins in the remaining 11 games. Gazer, as I said earlier, they hold the #2 defence in Division 5. Having lost a couple by a kick, they could well be higher on the ladder, and they could take some confidence from the last game in round 7, where their star man and their full forward, their skipper, inspirational leader, Ben Bioli, got on the board with 3 majors. For Salisbury, my former club, awesome to see them get an upset win in round 7 against Eastern Park. Their best has shown to be enough, playing great footy in their 3 wins. Camaraderie, buy-in and belief is all there to stay up in Division 5. And who knows, if they keep producing results like they did down at Eastern Park in round 7, could we potentially be talking about them playing finals? It was only a few weeks ago. I wasn't sure if they were even going to stay up in this division. So it just shows how close this competition is. Portland, all the way down in 8th, 3 wins, 4 losses, with the 4th best offense. They're 8th and they have the 4th best offense. My smoky to get into the 5 are Portland. If they can find consistency and limit their lapses, their best is certainly good enough. Another key contributor here for Portland, they're going to play their first 9 away from home due to their oval getting a redevelopment. They'll be back home for the remaining 9 games. If they can pinch another 1 or 2 away from home before the turn for home, they can definitely win more than they lose and potentially play finals and go deep in finals. I think their best is good enough to challenge the best. Down in 9th and 10th, the comp is so close. Trinity and Woodville South, they've both lost some really close games, and if they turn those into wins, they should be higher on the ladder. But unfortunately, they haven't done so. Trinity, they're in 9th, 1 win, 6 losses. Bit of an injury crisis down at Gawler. 10, 11 injuries to A-grade squad members. Will we see them make a late run? They're hanging out for the bye and to get some players back after. 2 games in the relegation zone, but there is strong belief down at Trinity that they won't be there come the end of the season. So only time will tell if that does come to fruition. Now for Woodville South, unfortunately, they're sitting 10th, 0 wins, 7 losses. Just speaking to the Pulteney superstar, Joel Aish, they played them in round 1, and it was a close result there. I think it was under a kick. And he said Woodville South were playing some great footy, and like just as I alluded to earlier, if they could have turned those into wins, then they should be higher on the ladder. But unfortunately, they haven't done it, and it could just be a bridge too far for them to cross with no wins on the board. It would probably be unheard of for a team to be 0-7 and stay out of the relegation zone. So unfortunately for Woody South, it doesn't look good, even though they have been playing some good footy. A quick shout out for a few guys down at Woody South. They probably need a few players to come along for the ride with them, but Fraser Gehrig, Brian Gill and Liam Wood, 6 times in the best players, all 3 of those fellas. So good luck, good work to you guys. Just need a few more to come along for the ride. Now we turn our attention to the leading goal kickers and standout players in Division 5. There is a plethora of goals being kicked in Division 5. What an exciting comp to be a part of if you're a viewer, a fan, a player or a coach in Division 5. Stephen Clark for Greenacres, 6 games, 39 goals. Here are his game-by-game stats. 4 goals, 8 goals, 12 behinds in round 3, can you believe it? 4, 8, and then his most recent game in round 6, 11 goals, 8, Stephen Clark, just roaming around on that half-forward line. He's been given the licence by his coach to basically run wherever he wants and have pot shots from everywhere, and he's putting them through. Joel Ace just spoke about him, the Pulteney superstar. He missed the last game with a bit of a knee niggle. He'll be back after the bye, and it was funny just chatting to him. If he knew Steve Clark wasn't playing on the weekend, he definitely would have got up and tried to kick a bag to bridge that gap a bit closer. He's on 28 goals, so there's an 11-goal difference there. Ryan Clark, the brother of Steve, 7 games, 25 goals for him down at Greenacres. John Mitchell for Marion, 18 goals in 7 games. Marion have a real even spread of goal kickers, so it's not just one guy they're relying on to kick all the goals. And for Eastern Park, Robert Kovacic, 7 games, 18 goals. Looking to the best players now, and really interesting to see that the best players, according to Play HQ on the website, they're actually all recruits new to their teams this season. So it's pivotal in every team really, but especially in the lower teams when you invest or you recruit these guys to your club, that they make a meaningful impact and they get in the best players on a week to week and they're imposing themselves on the game. Fraser Gehrig, Brian Hill, they're both new to Woody South, 6 times in the best players for them. Nick Hooker, a former Trinity Old Scholar, played some footy up in the Northern Territory as well, 6 times in the best players for Trinity this season. Jackson Pillion, one of Jack Brink's new recruits that he brought down to Greenacres this year, 6 times in the best players. Stephen Wellington, 5 times in the best players. He's played footy all over South Australia. He's a gun for Eastern Park, 5 times in the best players. And Alex Lim, a former teammate of mine for the Golden Grove Kookaburras, he's moved to Paraka under Scott Sandico. He's 5 times in the best players, so congratulations to all you guys. Now, a little bit of a different segment here on Between the Posts. In the pre-season, all coaches were kind enough to give me lots of their time and to have a chat about where their club is standing heading into the 2025 season. I asked each coach to give me a breakout player candidate, and they were kind enough to do so. So I've been having a keen eye on those players as the season has progressed. Woodville South, Calvin Norris, he's been in the best players twice coming into the bye, so he's had a nice start to the year. Down at Trinity, Braden Wilkin, he's taken his game to a new level, 4 times in the best players. Portland, I headed out to Portland a few weeks ago and did some interviews with Coach Dean Sumner and also Jared Jackson, who had his best pre-season as a ruckman and he's now the vice captain. So congratulations to you, Jared. Down at Salisbury, Luke Putty, 12 goals from 5 games, and that's on the back of a 40-goal season in Division 6. So he's absolutely humming, and also did kick 4 in that amazing win at Eastern Park in round 7. Gazer, Daniel Newton-Eates, he's now a key figure in the forward line for Gazer. He's registered 8 majors on the year. Eastern Park, unfortunately for Adam Varco, he's only played the 1 game after an absolutely flying pre-season, according to Anton Rayleigh. But he did play round 1, he got best on ground. So he's due to come back after the bye. Hopefully he can recapture some of that form and fitness that he had in the pre-season. Pulteney, Jaden DeMeo, speaking with Coach Darcy in the pre-season, he said, this guy can be anything. He's a former NBL 1 basketballer, and he's also kicked 7 goals on the year. Paraka, Adam Boxall, he's a forward. He's a key figure in the forward line for Paraka. He's kicked 13 goals on the year, set to surpass his goal tally of 21 in 2024. For Greenacres, Ethan Robinson, he's added a new dimension to the Greenacres midfield at 195 centimetres. He gets around the ground really well, and he's featured in the best players twice in a row now. So Ethan's finding some really good form for the Dragons. Down at Marion, Harrison Stanborough is taking the comp by storm this year. 14 goals and 5 times in the best players as a gut-running midfielder. Now, as we wrap up this mid-year June review, it's time to give some predictions. Starting in Division 5, I'm tipping Marion and Greenacres to make the grand final. I know, how obvious, but it's a 2-horse race in Division 5 as it stands, and I think they're good enough to both be there at the end of the year. I'm not brave enough to tip a winner in that one, but if anything's to go by in 2023 grand final between these 2 sides, it should be an absolute ripper. I think Paraka, Pulteney, Gazer, Eastern Park and Portland are all battling for the final 3 spots in the 5, so a couple are going to have to unfortunately miss out. Now, Division 1, that's where us experts spend most of our time commentating and doing some work on Division 1. I think Sacred Heart are finally going to break their finals hoodoo, get some wins on the board in finals and make the grand final. And they're going to play off against Port Districts. Again, I'm not brave enough to tip a winner in that one, but it should go down to the absolute wire. St. Peter's, Salisbury North and Rocks, they're currently sitting in the 5. And also Golden Grove sitting a couple of games out, I think will be the 4 teams fighting for those final 3 finals spots. Just a little caveat on the grand final prediction there. Only 1 club in the last 12 seasons in Division 1 has gone back-to-back. That was Goodwood in 2014, 2015. And further to that, 4 premiers in the last 12 seasons have gone on to make the grand final in that next year. So that's about a 30% chance that Port Districts will do that if history is correct. I think they will make it in 2025. I was there in round 7 commentating that game, and they play some beautiful footy, and it's very hard to stop when they get going. That brings the 5AA Division 5 review to a close. Be sure to check out the Adelaide Footy League socials for all your Adelaide Footy League content throughout the season from here on in. Cheers.
Hello guys and welcome to the June review for the Villiers Bakery Division 6, probably the most interesting division in all of the Adelaide Footy League. Well, I'm a bit biased towards that, but I'll go through and show you why. So first of all, look at the ladder. On top is Fitzroy with 12 points, 6-1 record. Second, Rosewater, 10 points, 5-2 record. And then this is where the interesting part comes in. Ingle Farm, Parrot Hills, Blackfriars and Houghton District and St. Paul's, all 4-3. So 8 points there. OSB Lonsdale, 6 points with 3-4 record. And then the bottom 2, Adelaide Lutheran and West Croydon. So looking at some of the key players according to Play HQ and the best players there that are given. Riley Hendricks, Mr. Consistent. This year, 7 out of 7 in the best players. Last year, 27 out of 7 in the best players. So he's been in the best players every game since the start of 2024 season. Riley Hendricks for St. Paul's Old Scholars. Stephen Peter for for Ingle Farm, and Reece Johnson for Ingle Farm in the best players 5 out of the last 6 matches. So some of the key players for the division, if you're out and about looking at those clubs, have a look and keep your eye out for those key players. They're really, really great footballers for Division 6. Some of the top 5 goal kickers, Trevor Rigney and Daniel Wheater. We mention them almost every time I do the Division 6 wrap because you kind of have to. For Trevor Rigney from OSB Lonsdale, 42 goals. Daniel Wheater, also 42 goals. Both of them getting the 100-goal margin last year, getting that century, and they'll be pushing again to try and get that again after 7 rounds already on 42 goals. They just moved up, both of them, to Division 6. Both were Division 7, and just showing how their goal-kicking skills translate to the higher division, still on fire. Some of the other key goal kickers, Dion Doolan from Fitzroy, 31 goals. Blake Powluck from Rosewater, 29 goals. And Jake Martin from Houghton District, 29 goals. Went to school with Jake Martin, I know him well, good player. Some of the highlights in this division, there's a lot of highlights. The first one that I mentioned already, the most evenly matched division in the Adelaide Footy League. As I mentioned, 8th to 1st is separated by only 3 wins, 6 points, and with 5 teams sitting on 8 points. That's the biggest highlight for me. It means that every round is important, every game means something because it can be meaningful for finals, and also each result can go either way and really shake up the ladder just with one victory. Another highlight for me is I like to have a look at the new teams into the division and see how they're going. 3 out of the 4 new teams in division are doing very well. Para Hills, O'Sullivan Beach, Lonsdale, we mentioned a bit already, they're on 8 points and 6 points respectively, who got promoted from Division 7, and Blackfriars, who actually got relegated from Division 5, are also on 8 points, so definitely in the mix for finals. Another highlight for me is Rosewater, who are probably the surprise of the year. They are sitting after 7 rounds in 2nd with 10 points, 5-2 record. Looking to see if they can keep this up, because the surprise to me is that they've managed to get to this point, but to see if they can be consistent and keep getting those wins going forward, I don't see why not. They have a great team, great club out there. Went out there last year and interviewed a few of the key coaches and things like that, and they have a lot of numbers on the park and a lot of depth. So yeah, just looking for Rosewater to continue to be the surprise of the season for Division 6. As for my prediction, I think it's the hardest division to predict. There's no way I or anyone, I think, can predict this one with how evenly matched it is. I believe Fitzroy are the real deal. They're sitting on top 6-1, and sadly for West Croydon, they're probably the lowest team here. They're sitting in 10th, haven't won yet. But Adelaide Lutheran as well, not writing them off. They're 1-6, but them two are probably looking like the most likely to get relegated. So that's my prediction. But both of them can find wins, and anything can happen. It's only after round 7. As for the middle of the pack, those teams sitting from 3 to 8 or 2 to 8, who knows? It's really very, very hard to predict from this point onwards. So many teams sitting on that 4-3 record. OSB Lonsdale 1 off on 3-4. Rosewater 5-2, as I mentioned. Very hard to predict, but I'm very keen to see how this division progresses as we go further into the year. And really the most fun division in the whole league, seeing what happens throughout the next few rounds. But thanks for watching. That was the June review for Division 6. Hello and welcome to the June review for Division 7, another very interesting division that I am looking at. We'll get into more of the details later, but yeah, a very evenly matched division as well. So first of all, we'll look at the ladder. Elizabeth on top with 7-0 record, 14 points, yet to be defeated. Other teams in division, Brahma Lodge in 2nd, Central United 3rd, Hackham 4th, Mawson Lakes round out the top 5 with a 3-4 record. And then 6, 7 and 8 on the ladder, all on 1 and 6. That is Mitchell Park, Smithfield and Flinders Uni. So some of the key players according to Play HQ, Brodie Norman from Brahma Lodge and Jacob Doherty from Hackham, both on 6 out of 7. So they've been in the best players 6 rounds out of the 7, as well as Zachariah Graham and Stephen Burns from Brahma Lodge and Central United respectively, also been in the best players 6 of the 7 rounds. Some other players that have definitely been key to their team, Adam Keane, who's 5 out of 6, he's from Hackham, and Riley Hofrichter, he's from Smithfield, and he's been a key player for them. He's been in the best players 5 out of the last 6 rounds as well, so definitely one to look out for if you're going out and watching those teams. As for the goal kickers, I've gone for the top 4 goal kickers because there's a bit of a gap after that. Trent Payne from Brahma Lodge, 32 goals. Stephen James from Elizabeth, 28 goals. Glenn Draper from Hackham, 24 goals. And Tyson Hugo Davies from Central United, 21 goals. So plenty of goal kickers in Division 7, and definitely the big key players there in terms of kicking those big winning margins. Some of the highlights for me, Well, the top highlight for me is Elizabeth. To see how they've turned it around from last season. It was a historic season in 2024. I covered them in Division 6. Everyone knows about their story from there. But to go from that to now being undefeated after 7 rounds, 7 wins, 0 losses, it's amazing, and it shows any club in the whole Adelaide Footy League that it can be turned around if you're a struggling team. You can just find the right players, find the right mix. Sometimes the relegation, you just find your level, and then now they're looking like favourites to going back into Division 7. The way they've turned around has been a key highlight for me. Other highlights, Brahma Lodge, they're 6-1, and they were a smoky at the start of the year for me to make the grand final. They've started very well. Another highlight for me in this division, I'd say, is every team's had at least 1 win. So there's no team that is yet to register a victory. So those 3 teams at the bottom, they're all competitive. Mitchell Park, Smithfield and Flinders Uni, they all have wins against each other. So it just shows that it's still open for those 3 teams to try and find enough wins to sneak up into 5th place. It means Mawson Lakes sitting in the 5th spot right now with a 3-2 record, 3-4 record, I should say. They're only a few wins away from that. So if they can get wins against each other, they can definitely put the pressure on Mawson Lakes, keep the momentum and push for finals. As for the predictions for Division 7, we discussed it a few weeks ago on the show that Elizabeth are probably going to be favourites and probably going to be in the grand final. Against who? Still open to discussion. My gut feeling is it's going to be Brahma Lodge. They started very well. They've added really good pieces. When I looked at their ins on paper at the start of the year, I was really impressed with some of the names, and from where they've come from to Division 7 to play for Brahma Lodge has been great. The top 5 might be set, like I mentioned, the bottom 3 are sitting on 1-6 record, and then 2 wins away from that is the 5th place Mawson Lakes. But I predict Mitchell Park, something about them, the way they're playing, they're not losing by that big of a margin. I think they can be the ones to push forward and try and push for that final spot. But still a bit of work to do, of course. But as we round out this review after round 7, it's been a fun time to look at this division, and definitely looking forward to seeing where this division progresses as we progress throughout the season. Thanks for watching. So this year in 2025, I've been commentating Division 1 in the Adelaide Footy League. So I've watched a lot of the games, I've followed the scores along. For me, for my prediction of the grand final, I'm going to go with Port District versus St. Peter's. A bit of a rogue shout with the St. Peter's one, but I've watched them a few times. I'm impressed with their depth. They have definitely dangerous players on each line of the field, and they work well as a team, and they're very good chemistry there. So that's going to be my prediction, Port District versus St. Peter's. As for who actually wins it, I think I have to go Port District at this stage. It might be a little bit obvious with them sitting on top of the ladder, but they won it last year. They have the experience on how to win finals, how to win big games, and they forgot, of course, those key players that really just roll through the midfield, through the halfback, and go forward and kick goals. So for me, it's going to be Port District winning it over St. Peter's.
Getting back behind the line, just the umpires letting everyone know that they've got control of the game.
Inside 50. Oh, good try at the back. An excellent mark taken.
He's paid it.
It certainly has. Inside 50. Oh, good try at the back. An excellent mark.
short period for this now, Dave. And now pushing a little bit on start back. Deacon, Johnny Boat, wins it. The 1-2 is active. Deacon, racing down the near wing here at Web Oval. Just gliding like a gazelle. Owen, this ticket to one. Sticker off his head. They can get his game. Deacon from nowhere. Just in front of the target. Rams are looking to clear off the deck. They're in big trouble. Dumping tackle. Look dangerous. Deacon! Something else. They're in big trouble. Dumping tackle. Look dangerous. Deacon! Something out of nothing.
Parsons, as he'll go inside 50. Davis could have a run and jump. No free. Oh. My word. No free. Oh.